Good morning. We're on page 418 in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, which is the foundational source text of a big part of the end of Hemshech Chaim Beis. And we are learning, it's coming back, we came back now, after all that we've discussed about Torah, including the reason that Torah is the and their mitzvah does not have without Torah because it's the primary element that channels the divine Ein Sof Atzmi, as he called it. Actually, he calls it Gili Ein Sof Atzmi. In Ayin Beis, he actually used the expression Atzmi, which I've been using on page 1350. Uses that expression. Let me just look at it inside. 1352, sorry. He says the words, and it's Megala, even the most concealed, Pnimis Atzmus Er Shalman B'chinas Hagili. So to really, if you really want to have like a summation of this whole picture, look at the top of page 1352 in Ayin Beis, volume 3. So what he says is essentially, so that's Torah. So after that explanation, he then says, V'achar kol hanal, at the bottom of page 417, we'll understand the Ner Mitzvah and Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, namely the three elements of the wick, the oil, the fuel, and the fire or light that it creates. And briefly, when it comes to the neshama, what did we learn? That the nefesh halikis, the divine soul, is the psila, the wick. It's immersed and enters into the oil, is the wisdom and intelligence, human intelligence of the animal soul. And the goal is to transform that into fuel that will fuel and will be drawn into the wick. Because he said, shayev umachle l'shemen, it draws and it consumes that oil as fuel to create v'haftas Hashem l'kacha b'chol avavcha. So essentially, how do we do that? Through the contemplation of Shema Yisrael, is banus nefesh halikis. When you have that contemplation that we learned at length earlier in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, and also here in, of course, in Hemshech Chaim Beis. So that then brings that the Nefesh Habamis also understands B'seichel Anushi Yechudei Law, and that causes it to be transformed from darkness to light, from instead of it following its own selfish desires, the animal soul, it should follow love and reverence of God. Ach lehechen hikola v'nichl be'erzeh. However, where? To what end? Where is this elevating to? So you could say it elevates, okay, it elevates to the Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. It becomes the candle of the Neshama. He says, no, it elevates even higher to to Torah more than just a candle. It goes all the way to Torah Dafke, She'er Zeh Dafke Meir Mo'er the Ein Sof Atzmei. In other words, we're going to the quality Dafke Torah all the way to the highest levels, what we call the Ayin Beis, he calls it the Er Atzmi. To just see the language in Ayin Beis, he said, yeah, Torah is Atzmi, Chachmei Atzmi, Bonim Shulchan Atzmi Sein Sof. Right? So it goes all the way to Torah. And Torah, as we learned at length, is the place where Ein Sof, unfiltered and unaffected, as we said, Bli Shinei Mahus Klal, what he calls Ein Sof, She'er Rak Be'er de Chachmas Timad, the Torah Dafke B'chinas Ma, that utter bitl of Torah, Shemegala Kol B'chinas Helen B'cheshach Ha'elyon, that reveals everything because it defies and is beyond any concealments. She'en Bo Shinei Mahus Klal, even as it comes down into the physical world, into Dvarim Gashmi. Now we're going to learn more about the mitzvahs. I didn't get to that yet, but the bottom line is Torah is the closest to a divine experience without any other, we'll call it without any additives, if you wish. The neshama comes down into our body and it goes in through all the levels and it's affected by these levels, and it's beslapshus in the neshama beguf. The Torah never comes into a body. Yes, it's in the Sefer Torah. It comes into letters and words, but it never assumes the physicality of this world. It always remains Torah, as he said. Mitzvahs too are mislabish and dvarim gashmi. We'll learn soon that the person and the mitzvahs connect the Torah to this world. If you only have Torah, you wouldn't have mitzvahs, you wouldn't have a neshama, you wouldn't have mitzvahs, you wouldn't have it manifesting in existence. It would just be Mamay Lamata Torah coming down. Even Torah Shabbat Peh is still Torah, it's still learning. It's just a workable document, meaning it's a Torah that can be applied. But without the person and without the mitzvahs, you don't have really the manifestation in the physical world on the physical world's terms. So Torah, as we're going to learn, and we have learned in Ayin Beis, is Mamay Lamata essentially. However, what it does have is it gives us a picture, more than a picture, an experience of the divine in the most undiluted way. If you want to have an experience of godliness in the purest fashion, bli shini mehus, that's Torah. And that's where the Neir Hashem Nishmas Adam brings and elevates the animal soul also to that level, which can also come to explain why he elaborated so much on Yechud Tata and Yechud Ilah, because it's not just the animal soul relates to God and Yechud Tata, to God on our terms. The animal soul can come to experience God even on God's terms. Obviously, it's a process. It doesn't jump there immediately. But the point is that the transformation of B'chol Levavcha, that with both sides, both the divine soul and the animal soul, both of them should experience love, is that the animal soul also experiences the highest levels. And it also helps to know that the animal soul is rooted in Toyu, as we had learned, which is also a critical point in this whole discussion. As I said, we'll be going over it a number of times, especially more elaborately once we finish this whole subject. But that's where we are right now. That's where we stopped yesterday. And now he's going to continue and explain the role of the human being. And I want to show you, after we do this, I want to go back to the Maimer and Alter Rebbe's Maimer, as well as the Ayin Beis, and you see how these ideas are all come together. I do want to talk about the Alter Rebbe's Maimer now for a moment before we learn inside. So in the Alter Rebbe's original Maimer of this discussion, what I wanted to point it out was this language. He says like this. I'm looking on page 39D. So he said, after speaking about Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam, one second. One second, please. Yeah, so he explains after the divine soul comes and manifests in the animal soul. The animal soul propels it to a higher level because it comes from Teyu. So when you transform the Shem into Er, it reaches a higher level of love. Er Chayzer of the Befesh Abamis. And then in the middle of the page, he says like this. So the Ava Rabbah comes to Er Chayzer, that comes from the beard of Klippas Nega, which is what is the animal soul achieves. Very similar to Shabbat Peh, but there he's talking about the Shama and the animal soul. After we do our work from the bottom up, then he says, comes Amshach, which is Teira. When we first learned it, I don't know if you recall, I stopped there and I said, what is he suddenly saying here? The Mittler Rebbe has now explained it. Because the process of the neshama affecting the divine soul, affecting the animal soul, ultimately leads to Teira. The Alter Rebbe just says it in one half a line and doesn't explain it at all. The Mittler Rebbe's explanation explains this in the middle of the page, 39D. If you want to be precise, I'm just tying up some knots here. And then he says, the kolzo b'chinas ner haneshama. This is all the ner haneshama, meaning the work, like I explained the other day, of the neshama on its own. Ach, ein neshama b'lei mitzvah. Neshama needs to have a mitzvah. And then he goes on, and you need to have Torah, the mitzvah that comes from Torah. So that's where he talks about how all of them come together. Now again, I'll go back to this later when we finish what we're learning here, as well as point out on page 1352 in Ayin Beis is very critical here to understand how that works. So let's continue reading now in the Mittler Rebbe's Maimer, middle of page 418. Pages can be found at ayinbeis.com. Okay. Va'omnam, the line that begins ha'er the Torah lamata b'dvarim gashmi. Va'omnam, however, ein gilizeh de'erein sof the Torah ki ima yidei memutza. This Gil of Ein Sof of Torah manifests not on its own. It's through a mamutza. There has to be someone that activates it. The mamutza here is Shehu HaAdam. This is the human being. Just 1 second. He said before I'm sorry. This is Ha'adam, Hamachaber, who binds together, connects, Umamshich, and draws down the Gili Eid Ein Sof B'Teira Eid. So there's Gili of Eid Ein Sof B'Teira Eid. In other words, Teira is definitely this level of Teira Eid. But on its own, it's a stationary state. Someone has to do something with it. And that's where the Adam comes into play. Kisha Esek, B'Teira L'Shma Dafke. When a person engages or Isaac exerts himself and works in Teira L'Shma Davke. So when a person is learning Teira, L'Shma meaning for the purpose of learning Teira and connecting to Hashem, not for his own interests. Shazeu Kekeda B'Shmeisav Yisbarach. Like we learned earlier, that's like someone calling the names of God because Kol HaTeira Shmeisav Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said that earlier on page, where was it? On page 410. You go back to 410 when he spoke about Teira Shebiksav, he said it's all names of God. That you'll call Sheyukru Be'emes can mean call out with a sincerity, with truth, but he's calling here Be'emes the Teira Dafke. So you're drawing from the Demes of Teira. Who's doing this? The person who's calling. Yukru. Someone has to learn the Teira. So in other words, if you just had a Torah that came to this world, there were no human beings, there was no Adam, yes, you have a Torah here, but nothing would happen. So the Adam is the one that activates this power of Torah Eir. And now he talks about the process. How? Who? And that's through Al Yedei Halos Eir Nishmosei, through the human being elevating the Eir Nishmosei, elevating the light of his soul. Shenichlalas be'esis the Torah. So here you have a neshama in a guf, a soul in the body in this world, and we can be busy with many different things. When a person sits down or applies themselves to learning Torah, what are they doing? Their neshama is immersing itself in God's Torah. You're reading the words, you're learning them, you're understanding them, you're integrating them into your life. He's not talking now yet Teira Shebiksav, Teira Shmapeh. Both are the same in that context. You're reading the Torah, like he says here. I'm sorry, I skipped the line. That is being the neshama nechlalas. You're now completely encompassing yourself, completely investing yourself, engaging in the letters of Torah. That's what the neshama is doing. And now he goes on the Gimel Ksharin. Hein. The Zohar says there are 3 knots. Torah, Araisa, Kutchabrichu, and Yisrael. Kutchabrichu, Araisa, Yisrael, Kulachat. 3 knots. So when a Yid learns Torah, it's binding him to Hashem because Torah is the Torah that's expressing Hashem. So that's the process. That's how it is. But when we actually learn Torah, we're activating it. So the fact that there's a Torah in this world still needs one more thing. You need to learn the Torah or read the Torah. So when you have that connection, that the human being is taking the Torah and reading and learning it, through that nimshach ein sof be'er the Torah be'esis halalu shemedaber adam dvar Hashem zu halacha oy mikra sheshein v'kera shakadosh baruch hu yeshiv v'shein kenegdei. I'll translate. I just wanted to read the full sentence to see where he's going with this. So he says like this: through this is nimshach ein sof be'er the Torah. So he's saying something interesting here. He's not just saying that you're revealing the Ein Sof within Torah. He's actually saying you're drawing the Ein Sof into Torah. The Torah be'esis halalu. When you're saying these words, you're actually activating. You're drawing the Ein Sof in Torah in these words, shemedaber ha'adam, that the person is saying. So when you're saying Bereishis bara Elokim, or any other verse in the Torah, you're saying Dvar, or not just Torah Shebiksav, Dvar Hashem Zu Halacha. This is the words of God. So that the human being is now making his words the words of God. So what you're doing is drawing down Ein Sof into his words. Dvar Hashem Zu Halacha. Oy, that's Halacha. Oy Mikra, or a pasuk, or the verse in the Torah itself, Torah Shebiksav, Sheshein V'Keda, that he repeats and reads. The studies and reach. Like we say, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Yeshiv V'Shein Kenegdei. So when a person learns or reads Torah, the Eibishter sits and corresponding to him is like his Shein V'Torah Kenegdei. How do you translate Kenegdei here? Across him, but it means like essentially like when you learn, God reciprocates and responds in kind. Shein Kenegdei. So you're actually causing God to come and learn Torah with you. That's essentially what he's saying. Ki yadua. Like it says, Ki al kol moitze pi havaya, the Torah yichya adam. The pasuk says it about bread. Not on bread alone does man live, but on the moitze pi havaya and the spark of the words of God that are in the bread. But he's saying, Kol moitze pi havaya, the Torah yichya adam. That the moitze pi havaya means the words that are uttered, that are expressed by God. Moitze pi havaya, that comes out of God's mouth. That's what causes a person to live. Shehu ha-nefesh ha-lekis. Yichya adam is the nefesh ha-lekis. So the nefesh ha-lekis is the one that's learning the Torah and is connecting the neshama to Torah. And in doing so, it's not just revealing the Torah, it's actually drawing the Eibishter into Torah, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu Keda v'Shein Kenegdei. He doesn't say this explicitly, but it sounds like it. Torah is Torah no matter what. That's for sure. It's not like the Torah is not Torah unless you learn it. But to really get it going, to activate its power, so when a person learns Torah, so it causes, first of all, the letters are coming alive because you're reading them, and you're channeling them into this world by reading and learning them. And you're also bringing the Eibishter into that picture, because the Eibishter learns with you. Like it says, Keda Kenegdei. So this is the mamutza, which is calling the adam, the nimsa. So what do we derive? What do we draw? What do we conclude from this? What do we derive from this? The nimsa, shanefesh alekis, that the divine soul, shemiskasheres b'tzirufei be'esis the Torah, that binds itself, like he said, kishin, like a knot, when it binds itself in the different combination of the letters of the Torah. That's called nikra mamutza. That person is that the nefesh alekis is then the mamutza, the interface lechaber ein sof b'Torah, to bind and connect to ein sof and Torah. And then comes the next step, ulahales, and to elevate halos the nefesh abamis, the halos of the nefesh abamis that is already active. He's already caused the nefesh abamis to feel, through the contemplation and to feel love. So to elevate the nefesh abamis, lichlel be'eira leki hazeh, to be encompassed as well in this divine light, shenechaz b'psila, Shu nefesh alakis, which holds on to and contained by the wick, which is the divine soul. So do you see now why he's using the word mamutza? You remember he said earlier at the bottom of last page, if you go back to the third line from the second line from the bottom of last page, he said the psila is the mamutza between what? Between the shemen and he said like this, which he also said in the beginning of the Maimon, because it's the mamutza, the psila, the oil is the fuel. The fire, the light is the light. The psila is the wick, which is the divine soul. It's a mamutza. So now he's explaining it's a mamutza not just from the point of view of the oil, it's also a mamutza from the point of view of the oil. Because the Torah oil, what manifests that? What draws it down? What brings it alive is when the person learns Torah, the letters, that in turn brings alive the Torah and drawing down the Ein Sof into Torah. Because Baruch Hu Yeshiv Leimit Kenegdei, Sheni Kenegdei, and that in turn affects the oil, which is the animal soul, that it too should be encompassed in this light Torah air, not just in the candle level, meaning on a lower level, but all the way Torah air, that pure Torah. So even the animal soul is now all being encompassed into this one integrated singularity and unity. So that's the Ed Eliki, the Ed Ein Sof, which radiates in Torah, like we discussed earlier. Okay. So I shall stop now just for any questions, if you have any questions.
So what does it mean that without the neshama, the oil in sof, the neshama is mamshich the oil in sof in Torah? What does that mean? The Torah itself, the oil in sof.
Did I not just explain that?
I don't understand it.
Okay. I thought I just explained it.
What is the neshama adding here?
Can you think what would the Torah be like if there's no people on earth? Who would they be able to give the Torah to? What would happen with it? They would just sit. What would be the Torah? Bereishis Kibbul Torah Sinai. There was a Moshe Rabbeinu that received the Torah. Let's start very balabatish and practical. A Torah without human beings has no purpose. What would happen with it? Not just who would deliver it to the people. It wouldn't be active. It would just be okay. I mean, Ein Sof itself, Alakus can radiate anytime. So the first simple thing is that the human being is the one that makes it all come alive and brings the Torah into this world by learning it, by reading it, and so on. That's on the most basic level. In addition, it's called Kodesh Baruch Hu Yeshiv V'Keira Kenegdei. The human being, the Torah itself doesn't cause Hashem to learn Torah. The Torah is Ein Sof in Torah. But in a sense, it's like dormant. It's just there. When you start learning Torah, the Eibishter himself comes. Then he doesn't bring it here, but sometimes it says that David was Mechaber Ein Sof into Torah. So 3 ksharim, Chassidus explains, why is it 3 knots? It's only 2 knots. There's Hashem, the Torah, and the Eden. So the Eden bind themselves to Torah, and Torah binds itself to Hashem. But Chassidus explains there's another way, that the Eden actually are mamshich elikus into Torah. So that's the third bond. So the Torah could be mamshich elikus into Eden, and Eden are mamshich elikus into Torah. He doesn't really elaborate on that here. But that's also discussed, just to add to the whole equation. But on a very basic level, it's as I just explained. Yeah.
Can you help sharpen for me it's not directly related, but it's related to physical and spiritual. The brain we use for Chabad and the heart we use for Midos. But if we're not alive and we don't have a physical body and we don't have a heart and a brain, how is it possible that the neshamas in Gan Eden can still learn or feel?
There's 2 parts to the heart and the brain. There's the physical organ, and there's the faculty. A person, God forbid, a corpse, also has a brain and a heart, but they're not functioning. On the other hand, you could have the faculty without the body part. So it's simply a matter of what
But
you
you
were talking about.
can't move
The
without the
soul
body
in
part.
Gan Eden. What do you mean? The mind works without a body. It doesn't have to have the body to work. The mind is a faculty that can work independent of it, just not in this physical world. It's a pure faculty. It's like think of it like a form of energy. But look, even in this world, as I just said, a body alone does not make the mind work. You could have a body and God forbid, after death, the mind, the intellect and the emotions are not active.
But what
the
about
point
raising your
being is that
hand?
even when the body is not there, the mind and the emotions continue to function.
But it's only the mind and the heart that continues to function. Nothing else in the
No,
body
what do
continues
you mean? A corpse has no mind and no heart functioning at all. It's just
But I'm
physical,
saying
inanimate matter. It's the faculties that makes the human being, that neshama, when it separates from the body, continues to have intelligence and emotions.
so it uses the brain, it uses the physical.
When it manifests in the physical world, it uses the brain. When it doesn't manifest in the physical, it does not use the brain. There is no brain. It's just a faculty of intelligence, the abstract faculty of intelligence.
How is the brain different than the arm?
Like God has intelligence and he doesn't have a body. You could have intelligence and not have a body.
But how is the brain different than an arm?
Okay. It's not. It's exactly the same thing like an arm. Actually, it's just a different organ. Without the faculty, the whole body becomes one inanimate force. Anyway, I think we should take this as another discussion, not relevant to here. If that doesn't help, we could talk about it afterwards, or maybe some other way.
Rabbi Jacobson, I have a question, if I may. We discussed in many places in Chassidut, obviously in Ayin Beis also, that the neshamot are literally part of Hashem. It's not a creation. It's literally part of Hashem. And we understand that mitzvot are the will of Hashem. So by definition, then all the neshamot have to have Torah in them inherently, because that's also the neshama's will. Now, I understand that when we come to the...
I didn't understand the logic here. Why does the neshama have to have Torah in it?
Because it's part of Hashem. You're part of Hashem. If we're literally part of God, then if God has the will, then that by definition has to be our will. We're part of Him. We may not realize it because we're down in a body.
So the way we say it, the way the Rambam says it, that every neshama is connected to and wants to do mitzvahs and be connected. Instead of saying it's part of it, every neshama wants to fulfill God's will. Correct. That's the way I would phrase it.
Okay. Because ultimately we are part of Hashem, and whether we realize it or don't, obviously.
But what's your point? But what's your point? You still have to do the mitzvah. It's not just enough to be part of Hashem. You have to actually.
The point is that even neshama before it comes in the body has wants to fulfill every single part of the mitzvot because that's Hashem's will. Now, when we come to the body, we have a lot of obstructions, a lot of levels, so therefore we have to reveal that and bring that out and make that obvious. But inherently, the neshama also has exactly the same will as Hashem. And has wants those mitzvot. That's the ratzon of every neshama also, because we're part of Hashem.
Okay, and what's your point? So therefore,
I think inherently the neshama wants to do it. It's just that
who said otherwise? I mean, where'd you hear otherwise? I mean,
I'm just saying, like, it's not obvious when we're.
Why is it relevant? Why is it relevant to our conversation? What you're saying is correct, but what's the point? What's the relevance to our conversation here?
So the relevance is this: that we're saying that the neshamot add something to it that wouldn't be there before. All I'm saying is there's no addition; it's just revealing. That's what I'm trying.
That's not what he says here. So
that's my question.
That's not what he says here.
Okay.
Why can't the neshama add?
Neshama can add, but what I'm saying is, if imagine, chas v'shalom, I'm trying to get a point across.
When a neshama comes down to this world, the mere fact that it's transforming this world with Torah and mitzvahs is already an addition, that the Torah mitzvahs on their own wouldn't have. They were not performed by the human being.
And
So
we're
that's
also
already
told
a
that
mitzvah.
Hashem also does the mitzvot with us. Yes.
Why is that? How's I don't really
What I'm
understand
saying is,
where you're going here.
if we're at the same footing on a spiritual
Why
level,
is it relevant to this discussion? The discussion is very straightforward here. He's saying that this Torah this power of Torah, is manifest and drawn down into this world through the Adam, the person who's learning Torah, the Nefesh Elikis, and ultimately affecting the animal soul and elevating it all to the level of Torah. That's what he's saying here.
Okay.
Not sure where you're going here. I don't see the line of reasoning here. Like, what do you want to? You're asking. You're adding.
What I'm saying is, like, we also told that Hashem is also doing the mitzvot with us.
Why is that relevant here? It's not relevant.
What the relevance is this? What we're adding and what he's adding. What's the difference? That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, first of all, he's not talking about mitzvahs here. He's not talking about mitzvahs. He's talking about Torah. And he said that when we learn Torah, Hashem responds in kind and learns like across us, so to speak. That's all he says here. Anyway, let's. I mean, I'm trying to focus on what he's saying. I'm not. I'm. Are there any other questions? Okay. So just to sum up a point that's made quite often, we learned it in Ayin Beis as well. The Torah illuminates the neshama, is Torah and directs and guides us. But there's also what the neshama does for Torah. It does something for Torah as well. It's not a contradiction. They both contribute to each other. It's like a real partnership. And here the focus is first of course, we're going to learn that Torah illuminates. Like we said, there's a dark world without Torah. We don't know how to behave. Like I said, when Mashiach comes, Ma'aseh Gadol, because the very neshama, the very human being, will sense what is right and what is wrong. And we will be mashpia in Torah. And Ayin Beis was a big part where he spoke about that that sometimes it says Torah is higher than neshamas, and sometimes it says neshamas are higher than Torah. May recall, it was a long discussion. And he explained, when the neshama is above, it's rooted higher. But when it comes down below, the Torah is higher than the neshamas. That's why the neshamas need Torah. And we learn Torah, and Torah educates us and tells us what Hashem wants of us. But then, as we learn and we grow, we ultimately can be mishpia back into Torah to the point that we can actually even change something that says in Torah. So there's a whole section in Ayin Beis where I can show you where he discussed this. If you want to see it inside, I already referred to this earlier. Worthwhile learning. Where he talks about the whole how the two elements of neshama as in Torah. It will help us understand what we're learning here as well. So where it says that a neshama as back into Torah is on page 1403, the very important section. Yeah. And that's where actually he talks about, that's where he talks about that there's the two levels of neshama and Torah. Right. And then on page 1404, he starts talking about there's two levels. Both are true. Neshamas have two levels, neshama below and neshama above. And he elaborates at length about that. And the Seder Aveda is, like he explains as he goes on, that first we learn Torah, and then as the neshama gets empowered and gets ignited, so to speak, then obviously the neshama has much to give to the Torah as well. So it goes in both directions. Okay.
Rabbi, I just have one quick question. Do we know? Does it say that when it arose in Hashem's thought, which came first? Like, did the neshama?
He speaks exactly about that on that page that I just referred you to.
Oh, okay. All right.
It says in the Medrash that two things preceded the whole world, whole existence of the world, Torah and Israel. Torah and the neshamas. And then he says which one preceded which. So in one place it says that so then he says Yisrael preceded Torah. But then there are other places where it seems that Torah is higher than neshamas. He talks about that. It's exactly that page that I just referred you to.
What was it again? I'm sorry.
I already
page.
closed it.
Oh,
I
all
already
right.
closed it, so.
1403. I think you said 1403. Thank you.
1403? Yeah, probably. Let me see.
But if Yisrael is the memutza, then it's the middle. Then Hashem is the top, Yisrael is the middle, and the Torah is the.
But it could be the other way around too. Torah is also mashpia and Hashem. That's what he talks about there at length on page 1403. Yeah. He says clearly there's midrashos chalukos. I'm specifically referring you there to look, because you'll see that'll help understand what he says here. I don't want to learn that right now because it's a whole topic there, but that's essentially part of this whole discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now he continues. He says like this. Now there's a bunch of parentheses that, again, don't seem to have endings. So I would just suggest we disregard the beginning because I'm not sure where they end. It's a little confusing here. I try to figure it out, but I don't know really where they begin. And there's two that will come that have a beginning and don't have an end. So he says like this. Now he's going back. If you remember, there was a pasuk he brought earlier. Ato te'er nedi, you illuminate or you ignite my candle. And v'havai yagia chashchi. And the havai with the vav illuminates the darkness. And he explained that was Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh, on top of page 417. He's coming back to that pasuk because now Neri is what's Neri? My candle is my neshama. Ner Hashem nishmas adam. So who ignites and who lights that neshama? Ato mamish. That's what he said earlier. So let's see what he's going to take this pasuk now and further develop it in context of what we're learning now. There he was talking again about Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. So he says like this: V'zeu ki ata te'er neri, that you radiate or illuminate or ignite neri, my candle, my al yedei er de Torah. That ata te'er neri is through the air of Torah. How does Hashem, ata, ignite our candle? Ner Hashem nishmas adam, through the air of Torah. Shemeir ba me'er ein sof. Because in Torah radiates, as we said, from me'er ein sof. Torah is the place where Hashem invested and essentially manifests himself in the gili of Eid Ein Sof Mamish. That's in Torah Er Ma Bitl of Torah that carries God's light. The second, actually, I don't know if it's one part. I think it's actually two different psukim, to be honest. Yeah. One is in Tehillim and one is in Shmuel Beis. They're not even one verse. It's two verses. And V'avai Yegiya Choshchi, the Avaya radiates. Yegiya means illuminates. Choshchi, my darkness. Shezeu Kaloyin the Nefesh Habamis. So that's how he's interpreting it now. Before he interpreted Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh, now he's interpreting it in the Neshama and the Nefesh Alikis and Nefesh Habamis. That the Ev the Torah Meir Ein Ein Sof, that is in 80. Doesn't say Nefesh Alikis, but it sounds like it. The Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam is the Nefesh Alikis. And that in turn illuminates the darkness, which is the Kiloyin, the consumption of, the dissolving, absorption of the animal soul. Gam Kain Ba'avir. Why does it say Ba'ir? I'm not sure. Why he says Avir. I mean, I have some theories about it because we learned in Ayin Beis about Ur and Avir. But he says Ba'avir with also with an exclamation with quotation mark. So I have to figure out why. Unless he doesn't mean Ba'avir, maybe he means Ba'ava V'yira. That's possible. Let me correct myself. So it's not Ba'avir. It's the Ava V'yira that he spoke about before. That the Kaloyin Nefesh Habam is Ba'ava V'yira. That's more likely. Now that I read it properly, let me just think. Yeah. Because he says right after, B'chol avavcha, ba'ava v'yira, u'bitl b'mitzias. So remember, the point here is that the oil of the animal soul on its own had its own interests. It's now been transformed, firstly, by the animal's divine soul on its own, through the contemplation of Shema Yisrael and Achdus, Yichud Elah, that it should be directed toward loving God. That in turn feeds the fire, the light of Torah. So it's elevating all the way to the level of Torah. So he's saying these two steps, the divine soul, which is radiated, which is ignited by Torah on one end, and then it affects the darkness of the animal soul. That's a bitl mitzias k'meshikosa b'chol avavcha canal. Like we said earlier, b'chol avavcha b'shnei yetzarecha, with both sides of the heart, with both the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, the divine soul and the animal soul. V'zehu shalat lafech chesha deklipas nega la'er. And this has the power to transform the darkness of klipas nega, of the husks, of the radiant klipa, you can say. La'er, to light. Shebom amokim gavei yeser. Just like he spoke before with Torah Shabal Peh, that it comes from vehavaya, with the vav, amosif. Because in order to refine and transform darkness, the bitter of this world, it's connected. The beginning was wedged in the end, connected all the way to a higher level than the Torah of Torah Shebiksav. Same thing here. When you're affecting and transforming the animal soul, requires a lot more strength that comes from even a higher place. Memokim gavoy yeser, v'hu b'chinas mo'er de Ein Sof. This is not just the Eir of Ein Sof, this is the mo'er. So it begins with Torah Eir. But now, when it's transforming the darkness, in this case, the darkness of the animal soul, that is coming from the mo'er of Ein Sof atzmei, shalamayla b'chinas Eir. That's higher than the level of Eir. Even the Eir atzmei of Torah. Because it's coming from a place that has the power to transform the darkness, like we learned earlier. So essentially, Torah Shabbat Peh does it by clarifying in this dark world what's the right thing to do. The neshama, the nefesh alikis, the nefesh abamis does it in the fact that you're actually taking an animal soul with its own self-interests, and you're actually redirecting it and harnessing it and transforming it into becoming godly love, and ultimately the Torah Eir. So the animal soul is being transformed, and that comes from Amokim Gavei Yeser, like we elaborated earlier, from the Moed, which is higher than Eir.
אצל השם אלוהיקי יגיע חושקי. כי את אותו ירנרי, השם אלוהיקי יגיע חושקי.
He's bringing a different pasuk. V'havai yagia choshki from Shmuel Beis.
Oh.
It's a different pasuk. Ataneri havai, you're correct. That's the first. But then he brings v'havai yagia choshki. In Shmuel Beis, of Beis Chavtes, he brings v'havai yagia choshki. So obviously the first pasuk is taka lower level, Elokim, like you said. He doesn't discuss that, but it's clearly he's bringing the second pasuk. If you look at the previous page, they say Chibur Shnei Ksuvim, Tehillim and Shmuel Beis. Well, you just read was Tehillim Yudches, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Clearly another pasuk.
Where do you see the citation of Shmuel Beis?
What?
Where's the citation to Shmuel Beis?
Chav Beis Chavtes 22:29.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Now comes another parenthesis. Like I said, the parentheses are a bit unclear, so I'll just continue reading. Now that we introduced back the Moed,
It's the same pasuk, isn't it? Basically, except for the vav.
No, it's not the same.
it says Bahavaya, that one's Elikim.
אצל in Shmuel, כי את נרי השם, והווי יגיע חושך.
Yagiyah Choshki, yeah.
In Tehillim it says, Ki'ato toyer nevi, Ki'ato nevi, Hashem
Hashem
Elokai
Elokim
yagia
Yagia Chashchi. Yeah, got it. Got it.
Yeah, why don't you post them both, the Tehillim and
I am.
Shmuel, and
I
we'll
am.
see, we can compare them.
Yeah, I just posted the Tehillim and now I'm posting the small base. Okay, so I posted both of them.
Thank you.
Sure.
You didn't post to everyone. I think you just posted to one person.
Oh, it's in the
Iron
Iron Base
Base
group.
Are you on the Iron Base group?
Oh, no, okay, sorry.
Are you on the Iron Base group?
No,
I think she
just,
was looking in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like us to add you to the group, the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, thank you. I'll
Yeah,
put
add her,
my
please.
number in the chat.
Put you in the chat. Can you put your number in the chat, please?
Yes, thank you.
What's your first name, may I ask?
Elisheva.
Alicia, hi. Thank you.
It's interesting, yeah. Ke'ata neri avaya. Ata te'er neri. Avaya l'kai yagia chashchi. Interesting. He doesn't talk about this, but
Here is toyer nevi, and here is Ki'ato nevi.
I know. He doesn't discuss he just brings what he brings, and that's that. I have to look into it a bit more. I'll look into that. Okay. Now, since he's talking about Moyer, he says, you know what? I think I'm going to stop here. We'll go this over because also I want to talk a little more about Oyer and Moyer, since it's clearly coming up again and again. Because clearly, even the Oyer Atzmi of Torah, he also said was higher than Cheshach. But the Moyer is the source. So we're going to learn about this some more. Okay, I see he's going to explain it here. Context of Nefesh Abamis. I'm going to stop here before the 3 lines from the bottom of page 418. Are there any other questions? Any other points you want to clarify? No questions? Okay, so let's stop here. Post the